So I'm sure people here would like to say that this is like the ramblings of a mental patient, but it literally is the ramblings of a mental patient. So if anyone's interested in these ramblings, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This rambling gibberish nonsense. But here I'm trying to figure out the Lagrangian for an electron absorbing a photon, and that this inevitably involves more than one electron, obviously, in the background, and more than one photon, of course. So what I'm ending up with here is a sort of a system of equations to try and understand the absorption and emission patterns of electrons and photons. Well, photons by electrons in the background. You can see each different sort of frame of this equation, or this sort of system of equations that I'm trying to develop, is denoted by x1, x2, and the subscript, and so on and so forth. So that categorizes, well, that denotes that they're in a different position each time, or in a different frame of reference, or that they're jumping around all over the universe to some position. We don't know exactly where that is, but you might say that the beta minus or beta 1 minus emission of gamma 1 there, such that beta minus 1 less gamma 1. So that denotes, or seeks to denote, the fact that beta minus 1 is emitting a photon there. It's emitting gamma 1, such that it's losing gamma 1 as its content of photon. So, I mean, what I'm really running up against in all this is, like, you see how this very much relates to programming languages and things. You can almost code it, I think. Or I'm trying to figure out some sort of script or code or notation to try and use that makes everything sensible, that makes everything possible to understand. But I mean, show this to most people, obviously, and they just say this is impossible to understand, this is like high level mathematics or whatever, which I don't think it really is so much. But I mean, it's maths to the best of my understanding, at least. And again, this involves no calculus at all. I mean, this isn't really a calculus-based equation in any kind of sense of the word. You can see like little hats on there that just indicates that they're vector quantities. But I think on this level, we're sort of going with the assumption that everything is a vector quantity, or that everything has its own sort of individuated dynamics within a vector space, or they form part of a vector field, or they're components of a vector field. But with something like this, I just don't know when this Lagrangian will end, or when I should polish it off. Because I'm just thinking, like, just doing it again here to try and get a bit clearer. I like this original term. I think this denotes very much what I want to try and say. I know this means maps onto, and strictly speaking, obviously the arrow should be the other way around, like does not map onto, or the photon maps away from the electron. But I mean, it's very like counterintuitive to think of it that way. I liked the idea of keeping it intuitive and keeping the notation intuitive. But then again, in terms of being able to simulate this, which is really the most important thing about it all, trying to simulate these things in computers ultimately. And this is why I wanted to team up with someone, I've always wanted to team up with people really in trying to solve this sort of stuff, people who'd be good with computer simulations and this sort of advanced mathematics. And Samuel Ashcroft, if you're out there, yes, maybe I consider a collaboration even with you. And your computer science degree, I'm sure you'd have a lot to be able to offer the collaboration and so on. But on a level, I don't want it to be a collaboration with just you and me, if you see what I mean, given your behaviour. And yeah, like, I mean, physics stuff, we form huge collaborations, obviously. But sort of putting an independent research group together might be quite a lot of fun, actually, I think. Just doing this sort of stuff in spare time. And I think I get across the point roughly that I wanted to get across with this. And I figured out a Lagrangian for, Lagrangian is an equation of motion. So what I'm really trying to do here is, just describe the movements of particles. Just describe this this energy of state versus energy of momentum. Because, I mean, each of the electron and photon terms, a photon is clearly energy, but an electron is also energy, if you see what I mean. By what we understand about general relativity, it has mass energy associated with it. So, I mean, that is a fundamental property of the electron, so it is energy, if you see what I mean. In its ground state, it is a certain amount of mass energy. So yeah, this is what you have the standard model Lagrangian and so on, which is either too big a Lagrangian or too short a Lagrangian. But yeah, these fucking things can go on for ages. I mean, I'm sure that these equations aren't right, if you see what I mean, these ones anyway, or that they're just approximations of a more correct idea, if you see what I mean. But this is the problem. This is what you have to work with. I constantly stumble through this stuff. So this is just the process of developing mathematics for it, really. Of course, it's not going to be the final answer. None of this stuff is. I mean, like, look, that just cuts off there. That just cuts off there with a question mark. This one I just decided to abandon. This is the 4th attempt. So do you see what I mean? I mean, I said like it's logically equivalent to that, but I mean, just for sake of simplicity, you could use the equal sign, I guess. And within the context of this notation, it means roughly the same thing, just like the transposes here. Like that means like, it means it literally, I wanted to say it literally maps onto a new vector space, x2, and that's becomes the fate of beta minus 2. That goes to a new position, which I mean, it could have been like done in subscripts and put into notation that way. But yeah, this is just part of the creative process, right? Of trying to figure out how to mathematically represent all these things and how to put all this stuff into equations. Because well, they want equations in physics, they want notation, they want things to be mathematized for whatever reason they do. You know what I mean? So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. If anyone out there wants to work on me with this, anyone who's seriously interested in their physics, and maybe even a researcher at university, or an early stage researcher in quantum gravity and theoretical physics, I don't know, or anyone out there who can computer simulate things like this, who wants to try and do it, who fancies having a crack at this sort of thing, maybe with me, I don't know, or I'll just keep soldiering on alone in my spare time. Thank you for watching everyone, bye, love you lots, bye, bye, bye.